All right, guys, let's get started. So let me share my screen. I hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes.
All right. Thanks for confirming. So before we get started with the actual thing that we need to cover today, let us do a quick recap of what we started with yesterday. We have seen that Selenium is not a tool. It's not something like you will gonna get a exe file that you will be installing and then it is going to provide you a platform for record and play and scripting, and then you can use multiple features of the tool. So it's nothing like that with Selenium. So Selenium is just a jar file. It's we call it as an API, we call it as a framework, we call it as a project, which is designed in multiple language. So that is what multi-language support is. So multi-language support is not like, let's say if my website is built up in PHP, then I need to learn Selenium with PHP to automate that website. It's not like that. No matter the website is built up in any language, Selenium is not going to interact with the language of the website. Selenium is only interacting with the HTML component. So HTML remains same with all the website. So if you know Java, you can automate any website build up in any language. If you know Python, you can automate any language build up, any website build up in any language. Right. Okay. So the other thing that we have seen that Selenium is only for web-based, but it can be integrated with other many products like other tools or other APIs, like to automate mobile applications, database application, APIs, web services, right? So all these things can be integrated in one single framework. So Selenium, you can say it's a base for automation. If you know Selenium, you know basic programming, you can automate all these things in one single project as well. Then we have seen it has got a multi-language, multi-browser, multi-platform support. So a lot of third-party integrations we can do with Selenium, like all these things that we have discussed about. And there are 4 major components in Selenium, out of which the companies are actually using WebDriver and Grid. Now, we have seen yesterday that IDE is just a record and play plugin. It's just a plugin. It's not a tool, it's a plugin to your browser. Initially, it was only available for Firefox. Now it is available for Firefox as well as Chrome browser. But in industry, no one is using Selenium IDE, where the practical, a big website is being automated, big projects are automated. So companies are only using the programming part, not the record and play part. With record and play, we cannot integrate all these components. So IDE is not at all used in the industry, right? So which component is being used? WebDriver. So we have seen yesterday, we just get started with writing the very first code. We have seen how to invoke a browser, how to launch a browser. And we have seen a couple of prerequisites. Prerequisites like to get started with Selenium is you need to have Java installed on your machine, basically JDK 1.8, which is the most recommended version. You need to have Eclipse IDE, and then you need to have the Selenium jar file. This is the only prerequisite. These are the only prerequisites you need to work on Selenium, and these are all free. No license required to download Eclipse, Java, or Selenium. Completely open source, right? So now today, before we get started with other configuration, today is a very crucial day. We'll be doing a lot of configuration today. We're not going to start with coding part because I know many people are new. They don't know core Java basics. So we'll be starting with core Java from our next session. But there are some crucial configuration which is additionally required when you're working with Selenium. And I want that during the coming week, all of you should be doing the same configuration on your machine. So whatever that we are doing today, same thing should be up and running on your machine during the coming week, right? So these are some of the crucial configuration. I'm going to talk about it soon. But before that, once again, let me know which is the current version of Selenium. What is the current version of Selenium?
Selenium 4.
Selenium 4. So we have seen yesterday, the version is 4.2. So this is the current version. And what all components this version contains?
WebDriver and grid.
WebDriver and grid. WebDriver and grid. It also contains IDE, WebDriver, grid. These are the three components only in Selenium now. So it means Selenium 4 is there in the market. But prior to this, there was Selenium 3 as well. So this 3.0 release went up till 3.141.59. And prior to this, there was Selenium 2 as well. So this Selenium 2 release went up till 2.53.1. And prior to this, when it started, it was Selenium 1.0. So which company came up with Selenium? Like if we talk about QTP. Sorry?
It was ThoughtWorks.
ThoughtWorks, correct. So ThoughtWorks is the one who started this project, right? Anyone knows the developer name behind the same? Simon Stewart. Simon Stewart started Selenium? Json Huggins, correct. Simon Stewart actually created WebDriver. WebDriver was created by Simon Stewart, right? So it's very important to know the brief history of this project. So QTP, which company came up with QTP?
It was Microsoft.
Mercury. It's
Mercury.
And then later on, HP has acquired it, right? So now we call it as HP QTP, or they have upgraded it to something called as UFT, right? So initially it was QTP and it was launched by Mercury. Now, Json Huggins, he thought of automating his daily routine task. So he has created a small project, a small programming project. And that project, he started initially in the year 2004. So that project went up to such an extent, he thought of giving it some name. And he came up with a name called as Selenium. Now, why only Selenium? There's a history behind the name as well. So as we know that QTP was very popular at that point of time. You can say it was the only automation tool. If we talk about any automation tool, then QTP comes into our mind, right? So they thought of creating something parallel to QTP, and that too completely free of cost. And they created Selenium. But why they have given the name of this project as Selenium? So there's a history behind that. So QTP was a product of Mercury. If we talk Mercury, if we talk about Mercury in general terms, what exactly is Mercury? What is Mercury?
Mercury is a kind of not metal.
It's a liquid metal. It's the only liquid metal.
Yeah, liquid metal.
So I believe most of you have seen Mercury.
Yes. In thermometer.
In thermometer, right? So there, it's basically a poisonous element. So if someone intakes mercury, then he's gonna die. So if someone intakes mercury, we give him an antidote. That is what selenium is. So selenium is basically an antidote to mercury. Selenium kills mercury. So that is the reason they have given this project name as Selenium, so to end the market of QTP mercury. And up to such an extent, they are successful as well. Not just because of the cost, there are n number of factors that we have already discussed and we'll be discussing as well in this course, why Selenium is very popular and why it has taken over QTP. Not just open source, there are tons of features, right? So this is one of the important things that everyone should be knowing. So initially, they started with Selenium 1.0. They created components like IDE, that is for record and play, but everything cannot be achieved using record and play. So they have created a coding library, which is called as RC, or the name is remote control. And then they have created another component called as grid. Now, what is this grid? RC is for coding. And what is grid? Can anyone tell me what is grid? What grid does? Anyone?
It will distribute the
Maybe it locates the position of any element.
No.
parallel execution.
Parallel execution. So parallel execution, is it a task of grid? Is grid responsible for executing parallel test cases? TestNG, exactly. So TestNG framework is what is going to execute your test cases in parallel. Grid is not going to execute. See, if you have hundreds of test cases, let's say you have 100 test cases, and each test case is taking 1 minute to execute. So in total, all 100 test cases, if I execute it in a sequence, it is going to take 100 minutes. But if I change the configuration to run it parallel, then all 100 test cases are going to run at the same time. So it is going to take 1 minute to execute all 100 test cases. And whether it should run in sequence or in parallel, that task is not decided by grid. That task is of TestNG framework. So we'll be looking at the parallel test execution stuff as well. While automating the website, we'll be executing parallel test cases as well. But grid task is to automate something called as Bct testing. So I guess you guys have heard about Bct, that is browser compatibility testing. Or you can say remote test execution. So what we do in browser compatibility testing, manually if we do. So let's say I have 100 test cases to test on a website, to execute on a website. I want to make sure that the test cases are running fine on Firefox. It is also running fine on Chrome, on IE, on Edge, on different browser, because end user could use any browser, right? My website should work fine on all the browsers. Not only this, the end user could use a Windows machine. He could use a Linux machine. He could use a Mac machine, right? Most of the people are using Mac machine these days. So what client wants that his product should work fine on all major operating system as well. Now, if I have to do this browser compatibility testing manually, how will I do it? I'll allocate 8 to 10 resources. I'll ask the first tester to test it on Firefox, second one to test it on Chrome. They are executing the same test cases. Same test cases on Firefox, same on Chrome. The third tester will gonna execute the same test on IE. Fourth will execute it on Edge. Someone will execute it on Windows. Someone will execute it on Mac, on Linux. And same test cases they are executing for the entire day. So we have to allocate all the resources to do the same testing. And what grid does, grid actually automates the entire process. So with grid, we have a structure called as something called as node or a hub. So we have a hub over here, which is a main machine where all our test cases are kept. Then we have multiple machines which are connected to the hub, which we call them as node. So this is the main machine, which is hub, which contains our test cases, right? And this is a window machine having IE on it. This is a Mac machine having Chrome on it. This is a Linux machine having Firefox on it. So Selenium is going to send the request to hub, and hub will distribute or can send all 100 test cases for execution on IE, same 100 on Chrome, same 100 on Firefox. But whether the test cases will be sent in a parallel mode or a sequential mode, that is not decided by grid. That is actually decided by TestNG. So we'll be integrating TestNG with grid, and when we run our test in parallel, same test will be sent to the hub, and hub is going to run them parallel on multiple machines on multiple browsers without any physical interference. So this is what the role of Selenium Grid, to distribute your test cases for remote execution on remote machines. So we're going to see like the detailed configuration of grid, and we're going to execute sequential test as well as the parallel test using Selenium grid. So this is a very unique component they have created, which QTP cannot even think of, because QTP tests are only executed on Windows. So you cannot do remote execution on Linux, on Mac, on different OS. And initially at that point of time, the major support of QTP was on IE, only Internet Explorer, right? Later on, they have added other browsers, but initially it was IE only. So that is what they thought of, creating a project which should be more powerful than QTP, and it should be open source as well. And that is what they have created, the Selenium project. And initially they created a record and play plugin, which is not very powerful, but the powerful part was this RC, the coding part. So if I talk about this coding part, what they did initially, they created a class called as default Selenium. It was a plain Java, core Java class. So inside this class, they have created a lot of functions. So what you need to do, you just need to call those functions and automate your website. Functions or methods were like this. There's a method called as start. Inside this start method, they have written a code. If you call this start method, it is going to launch a browser. And then after launching a browser, you need to navigate to a website. So there is another method called as open. And then you want to, let's say, get the title of the page. So there is another method called as get title. Then there's a method called as click. Then there is a method called as type, and so on. They have created a huge collection of methods, but this was the only major class at that point of time. So methods, somewhere around 150, 200 methods were there inside this class, which covers the entire functionality. But this was the only class, and it was very simple to work on Selenium RC. Even if we are not good in coding, we know basics like what is a class, what is an object, how to call method. We can easily call these methods. So it was very easy. Like how you call these methods, we have seen yesterday by creating an object of this class. So how to create an object? By saying default Selenium obj, or let us give it some meaningful name, equal to new default Selenium. And then we call the methods one by one. Let's say I want to launch a browser, I'll say selenium.start. I want to navigate to a website, I'll say selenium.open. And in open, there was one argument as well, where we need to provide http google.com, and it navigates to google.com. Then after that, I want to get the title of the page. Method was selenium.getTitle. I want to click on something, selenium.click. I want to type something, selenium.type. So as a tester, this was my role. In order to automate a website, I just need to know this much programming so that I can create an object of a class and call the method one by one. See, this is very simple. No need to learn record and play for it. No need to get this code auto-generated from a record and play feature. It was very simple to work on RC. But this is like a plain Java code. How this code is interacting with your browser? What is written behind the architecture? How it is communicating with the browser? How it is performing action, click, type, all the action on your browser? There must be something written in the architecture. So how Selenium RC was designed, RC injects JavaScript on your browser, JavaScript on the browser. So JavaScript, I hope you guys have heard about JavaScript. I mean, I'm not saying that you know the language JavaScript, but in general, where JavaScript works, where JavaScript runs. Can anyone tell me where JavaScript runs? On browser? Exactly. Basically, it runs on the front end, on the UI, on the client side, right? On your browser, it runs. So what Selenium, when we used to run this code in Selenium RC, there is something called as RC server. This is a standalone RC server. standalone RC server. You remember we downloaded one jar file yesterday. This was the jar file. You can see the name is Selenium server. So at that point of time as well, there was a jar file, Selenium standalone server. And how we used to start it? We used to start it by saying java-jar Selenium server and something like this, and then press enter. And it actually starts the server. So right now it is not going to start because that RC server is no more there in Selenium 4. So, but this was the command used to start the server. Once the server is started, then only this code is going to be executed. Because this server is responsible for injecting the JavaScript on the browser. So even let's say I am not using Selenium. I am a JavaScript developer. I need not to use Selenium. I can write a simple JavaScript code and I can click on any button on the UI. I can set a value of any text field. I can click on any link. I can highlight any element. I can do all the operations on the runtime on my website. So that is done using JavaScript. Even a JavaScript developer, he need not to use Selenium. He can write a JavaScript code and execute it, and it is going to perform or automate that particular task. So JavaScript code looks something like this. Document.get element by ID, provide the ID, and then say click. Something like similar like this. This is not the exact code, but it is similar to this. So what they did, they have wrapped up this code inside the click method. Now, ultimately, as an end user, you are using plain code Java. You are calling selenium.click. But in the background, it is injecting JavaScript on your browser. That is what is written in the architecture of RC. That is how they have designed this RC project. So whenever you're calling these methods, this is actually injecting JavaScript on the browser and performing the action. But this JavaScript is something which is very risky. And this is not 100% accurate solution, because at that point of time in 2004, the major browsers that were used was IE and later on Firefox. So if you have ever performed testing on IE, although IE is quite old, if some of you are new in the industry, you might have never worked on IE, but there are still old client applications that still supports the Internet Explorer. They still don't run on Firefox and other browsers. So while we used to execute Selenium script on IE actually blocks that execution. Because IE is designed in such a way, it's a highly secured browser. So if you have ever noticed, if some of you have ever worked on IE, so there is something like a yellow triangle error you must have seen in the status bar. Let me show it to you if I can show it to you, that error, JavaScript error on IE. Something like this yellow triangle, if you have ever noticed, this comes somewhere down on the status bar. So somewhere over here on the status bar. So this does not come on Firefox and other browser. This was only specific to IE. This error is there because, see, if I know JavaScript, I can write such a code that if you navigate to my website, it is going to inject JavaScript on your browser and it can fetch credit card information or the stored cookies or username and password from your browser easily. At times, JavaScript code is also used for hacking purpose. Right? From the client end, I can fetch any information. So IE, on the other end, IE is a highly secured browser. I don't allow that JavaScript injection on its browser. But if we talk about Selenium RC injects JavaScript. So if my website is only supporting IE, I cannot use Selenium RC. But there were workarounds as well available. Workarounds were like you open up your IE browser, you remove all the security protocols, parameters from your browser, and then you should be able to execute Selenium RC code easily on your browser. But what happens is my website was a HTTPS website. It was a highly secured website. It has got some SSL certificates. As soon as I've removed security from my browser, I started getting some these errors. The site security certificate is not trusted, connection is not private, something like this. So this you may have seen when you navigate to some secured website. If the certificate is not there, then you may not be able to enter into that website. So same issue happened at that point of time. If we are removing the security, we are not able to navigate to the website, then what will we automate? So this JavaScript was one of the biggest challenge of Selenium RC. Not only this class itself was the biggest challenge, because this was the only class and it contains only 100, 200 methods, not more than that. See, whenever we are doing manual testing, even we are testing a login window, we do lots of permutation and combination, right? When we write the test cases. It doesn't mean for every permutation and combination, you're going to find method inside this class. It has got collection of only 200 methods. When you are writing test cases, you can think of any scenario, but it doesn't mean for that scenario, the method has to be there inside this class. So if that method is not there, then you cannot automate that functionality. Let's say I got one of the test case to, let's say for this particular website, I want to get all the links from this website. And there was no as such method in this library which can get all the links printed from the website. This is one of the 1,000 scenarios. There were many scenarios when companies started using Selenium RC, they faced these sort of issues. Now, the only solution was either we need to be a developer and we should create a method inside this library. Because it's an open source library, you can create your own methods as well. But this is good for developers. What about testers? We want something which is already built. We are not going to develop Selenium. So these were the two major challenges that companies have faced while using Selenium RC. And these challenges were actually recognized by one person in 2006. He used to work as a lead developer with Google. And his name is Simon Stewart. So Simon Stewart was a lead developer in Google at that point of time. And he has actually recognized all the challenges of Selenium RC and created another project parallel to RC, which we call it as WebDriver. So WebDriver was initially started at Google. Many Google developers have contributed into the development of this project. And this was also an open source project. So not only Google developers from Facebook, Adobe, big organizations, they've actually contributed into the development of this WebDriver project. So what they did, the biggest challenge was this RC library, this JavaScript injection. So in the architecture of WebDriver, they have completely removed this JavaScript injection. So if JavaScript injection is not there, then the issues related to JavaScript is not going to come. If the browser is not supporting injection, if we are not using that, we should be easily able to execute our test on the browser. But what they have written in the architecture, we're going to discuss about that thing as well. But what they did, another thing, this was the only class in RC. In case of WebDriver, for every browser, they have created one class. If you want to work on IE, there's a class called as Internet Explorer Driver. If you want to work on Chrome, class called as Chrome Driver. If you want to work on Firefox, class called as Firefox Driver. If you want to work on Safari, Safari Driver. For every browser, you're going to find a class. Not only this, they have created a huge collection of classes, each to support every feasible functionality on a web. If you go over here, if you want to see what all classes are there, go to the main website of Selenium, selenium.dev. From the download section, yesterday we downloaded Selenium, the latest stable version. If you go down, you will see different language bindings, C, C#, Ruby, Java, all these languages are supported. We are using Java, so we'll be going to this API doc. Let me click on frames. See, these are the huge collection of classes in this project. Not just one single default Selenium class. For every browser, see, I talked about Chrome driver. You're going to find a Chrome driver class. See, Chrome driver. And this is a class. For Chrome, for Firefox, for IE, for every functionality, you're going to find some classes over here. See, this is for Firefox driver. Right? So that is how this project was designed, and they have overcome all the challenges that were faced in Selenium RC, and they've created a very powerful project, right? Which they named it as WebDriver. And later on, they merged this project with Selenium. So that's the reason we call it as Selenium WebDriver or Selenium 2.0, which was the next version from Selenium 1.0. And this release went up till 2.53.1. Now, many companies were still using RC. All of a sudden, they came up with WebDriver. Now they are saying that stop using RC and migrate to WebDriver. Immediately, the migration is not possible, right? So what they did in 2.0, they have kept IDE, they have kept RC, they have kept WebDriver, and they have kept Grid. So RC was there in 2.0 as well. But this was only up till the release 2.44. And after that, they deprecated it. Deprecation means that if you are still using RC, if you're facing issues in that project, we are not going to support it. We are not going to do any enhancement. We are requesting you to move to WebDriver. And in Selenium 3, they have completely removed RC. So in Selenium 3, you'll find ID, RC, and WebDriver. And same in 4, you'll find IDE, RC, WebDriver. So what is the difference in Selenium 3 and Selenium 4? So the difference was the implementation of W3C compliance. W3C is World Wide Web Consortium. And then there is something called as Json wire protocol, which is removed from this architecture. This JSON wire protocol is the mode of communication. Like in RC, the mode of communication was JavaScript. This JSON wire protocol was implemented in 2.0, 3.0, and then they have removed it from 4.0. Now, what is this JSON wire protocol? So I said, in 1.0, we have understood that the mode of communication was JavaScript. But in 2.0, JavaScript was removed from the architecture. Then how these classes are communicating with the browser? What was the mode of communication? Because this is like a plain Java code. How this is launching browser, and then like yesterday we have written a code simply by saying Chrome driver. So when I run this code, it is going to launch a browser, it is going to navigate to google.com, then it is going to perform actions on this page. How this communication is happening? So this communication was happening with the help of your browser APIs. So let us take a look at this documentation. So I'll be sharing you this documentation. This is the architecture of Selenium 1. So where we have a remote control server, this is your client. This is your client, like your code, your Java client, your Eclipse, where you're writing the code. Your code, when you run it, the request is sent to this remote server, the RC server. And then this injects JavaScript on your browser and perform testing. So JavaScript is executed inside the browser. This was the architecture of RC. Then later on, when Selenium 2 came into the market, it was officially launched in July 2011, WebDriver, right? And this was the architecture. In this, the major support was given to Firefox. So it was like a native support. Selenium directly interacts with the Firefox browser, directly interact with the native classes of Firefox browser. See, Selenium, we talked about, like Selenium is an API. Like it's a collection of classes and methods. Same way, your browser is built up in some language as well, right? So your browser must have some internal classes. It might be built in C, C++, C#, or any language. I mean, if we talk about Firefox browser, it might be developed in any language, let's say, but that language contains many classes, many methods. So your Selenium library is directly communicating with these classes. With the browser native DOM component, there was a direct communication with the HTML part of the browsers. But that was only specific to Firefox, not with other browsers, because other browsers, they didn't allow that you are directly injecting or directly communicating with our browsers. There should be a mode of communication. There should be a channel in between. That channel was the browser executables. So if you remember yesterday what we did, when I added this Selenium jar, when I run this code, I encountered some error. I was not able to launch the browser. Then I added this executable file, chromedriver.exe. This exe, this is basically an API which is provided by Google, because Google is the owner of Chrome. So this is provided by Google to WebDriver so that this class can send the request to this Chrome driver, and this Chrome driver is responsible for communicating with the browser. You cannot directly communicate with the browser. Similarly, if you want to make a connection to IE, you will be needing an Internet Explorer driver.exe file. If you want to communicate with Edge, there is an Edge driver.exe file that you need to download, and you need to add it to your project. So this is something like this. If you look at the architecture over here, this is your Java class bindings, Java, Ruby, whichever language you are using. So this is your client. This language is your client. When you run it, the request is sent from here. The request is sent via something called as JSON wire protocol. Although it is not very important in the very first lesson to understand what exactly is JSON wire protocol, because we'll never be interacting with this JSON wire protocol. But it is still important to know the architecture of WebDriver, right? Because in an interview, someone may ask you, just explain me the architecture of WebDriver. What is the difference in Selenium 2, Selenium 3, Selenium 4? So these are some of the things which you should be very much familiar with. So JSON wire protocol is something that exposes RESTful APIs. Now, what are the RESTful APIs? If you guys have ever done manual testing on API, that is like your web services, you must be familiar with this term. What is REST API? If you have never done, that's fine. So REST APIs are something, I took one example yesterday that let's say let us practically navigate to make my trip. So I'm going to make my trip and I'm searching a flight from Delhi to Bangalore, right? If I click on search, you're gonna see I came across a lot of flights over here. SpiceJet, Indigo, right? A lot of flight vendors are there. AirAsia is there, Vistara is there. Now, if I go to another website, let's say Expedia.com. This website is also providing the same services. I'll go to flight. I'll say I need to go from Delhi to Bangalore, right? And if I search for the flights, I'm gonna get a similar data, although the dates are different. But flights, you're gonna see similar flights, AirAsia, Indigo, SpiceJet. You're gonna get a similar flights over here as well, right? But how Make My Trip is getting the information of these flights? Like SpiceJet, there's a flight available from 2 p.m. to like it's a 22 hours flight. How they're getting this information? So SpiceJet must have shared them, right? Shared with Make My Trip. And same information we are getting over here as well. So SpiceJet must have shared the same information with Expedia, right? And this information must be there in the database of SpiceJet. So have they shared their database with Make My Trip? And then they have shared their database with Expedia. And there are 100 such websites where you can book the flight tickets. So is SpiceJet sharing their database with all those 100 websites? And let's say if I book this ticket from here, the database gets updated. Now, the database is getting updated from Make My Trip, but how come Expedia comes to know that the flight ticket is booked and we cannot book the same seat from here? So the updation is done in SpiceJet, then again, SpiceJet sharing the updated data with everyone. That is not possible, right? So what is happening over here, that this is, let's say, this is, sorry, just a moment. This is Make My Trip. What's happening? Yeah, this is Make My Trip. This is your Expedia. This could be GoIBO. And this is, let's say, Air India. So this is Air India. Now, when we are searching for the flights from Expedia, it is not directly sending the request to Air India. It is sending the request to the API, which is shared by Air India. And then further, the API validates the request in the Air India database. And same thing, when we are searching from Expedia as well, Expedia is not hitting the database directly of Air India. It is sending the request to the API, then API is getting the results from the database of Air India. If there could be a number of parameters before communicating with this API. There could be some authentication available, like some user credentials is provided, some encrypted keys are provided. If the authentication is successful, then only this API will be communicating with the database, because not everyone can communicate with this API. So if you are an actual website, if you are Make My Trip, if you are Expedia, if you are like any airline services, then you're going to get the access of this Air India API, and you'll be sending the request to the API, and then API will be communicating with the database, and then it is going to send you the response on your website that what all tickets are available. And if, let's say, if Make My Trip books the A1 seat, if the A1 seat is booked by Make My Trip, then it sends the request, I want to book A1 seat. This A1 seat gets blocked in the database. Next time when this is going to book the same seat A1, then it is going to check with the database. If the seat is already occupied, this website is not going to, this website will not be able to book the A1 seat. So it's going to get the balance seats available over here. So this is how the communication is happening. And same thing is happening over here. Now, this communication is done with the help of RESTful APIs. RESTful APIs. So you must have heard about some HTTP methods called as GET, called as PUT, called as DELETE, right? So these HTTP methods are the same methods which is available through your JSON wire protocol. So whenever I'm sending a request to launch a browser, to navigate to a website, so there are same HTTP methods which are sent in the mode of communication. These requests are sent to the browser APIs using the JSON wire protocol. So when we send the request, this JSON wire first encodes that request, then decodes it, then send it to the browser driver, then browser driver further execute the test on the real browser. If you want to see how this JSON wire protocol it looks like, simply search for JSON wire protocol. I know for the very first session, it is little difficult to digest this API part, but don't worry about it. This is just an architecture. While working on Selenium, we are not going to deal with this JSON wire protocol. So although in Selenium 4, this JSON wire is gone, JSON wire protocol is no more there. But if you take a look over here, so this is nothing. This is just your REST APIs. The request is sent using the REST APIs. If you go down over here, yeah, see, post request, get request. See, in case we want to navigate to a website, in case any one of you know Postman, if you have done manual testing on the APIs, instead of using Selenium, if you use these URIs, you can still automate your website. You'll see, you'll be able to communicate with your browser. You'll be able to navigate and perform action without writing a single piece of code, just by hitting these URIs. See, in case you want to navigate to a URL, you need to send a post request and you need to use this URI along with the session. So all these are the REST APIs. So when you are writing Java code at the backend, what is happening? It is sending the request via JSON wire protocol in a form of REST API itself. And these APIs are actually communicating with your browser APIs. Irrespective of what language you are using or what language your browser APIs are built in, irrespective of that, because this is actually communication done with the help of JSON, right? So it has nothing to deal with if you are using Java and if this Chrome driver is built up in PHP. It has nothing to do with that. The medium is your JSON wire protocol. The JSON part is sent in a form of a request over here. And that remains same for both, for your client as well as for your drivers. And then once the request is sent to the Chrome driver is the one which is going to communicate with your Chrome browser, because this Chrome driver is provided by Google, who is the owner of Chrome. Same way, Edge driver is provided by Microsoft, not by Selenium. Although you see all these like executables that you can download directly from the Selenium website, but when you are going to download it, if you go to download, if you go down, if you see this platform supported by Selenium, if you extend this browser tab, you will see that Firefox. In case you want to work on Firefox now, you need a Gecko driver. If I go to documentation, this will take me to the Firefox Mozilla website, because Mozilla is the owner of Firefox. So this Gecko driver is provided by Firefox, not by Selenium. Same way, Chrome driver is provided by Google, not by WebDriver. Okay, some of the questions: can we use Selenium for API automation? No, I mean, Selenium is not for API automation. Selenium is only for UI automation, but you can integrate REST assured along with Selenium and you can automate APIs as well. So JSON wire protocol is just a service which is accepting the request and sending the request to the API. Your API is Selenium API and the other API is the Chrome driver API. So these two projects are communicating with each other, right? Selenium is not directly communicating with your browser. Selenium is sending the request to your Chrome driver via this channel, which is JSON wire protocol. And then the request is further sent to the browser. So that was there in 2.0 and in 3.0 as well, same architecture, but the native support of Firefox was removed and Gecko driver was implemented. So this Gecko driver was not there in Selenium 2, but in order to automate Chrome, Safari and other browser, you need to use the browser executable. In case you want to automate things on Firefox, directly create an object of Firefox driver class and do the communication. Complete your automation. I mean, no need to add Gecko driver. It was not there in 2.0. It was implemented in Selenium 3. So Selenium 3, almost the architecture was same, but JSON wire protocol and the Gecko driver executable was implemented for Firefox. And then there's the major change came when Selenium 4 was launched. So Selenium 4 was officially launched on 13th October 2021, last year itself, right? And what change they did? They completely removed this JSON wire protocol from the architecture and made Selenium libraries fully W3C compliant. because Selenium is widely used in the industry. So it should follow all the protocols, like the W3C has laid out a lot of guidelines. If Selenium is being used in CMM 5-level organizations, big organizations, then Selenium must follow these guidelines, because your browsers are also following the same guidelines. All your browsers are fully W3C compliance. So now, if JSON wire protocol is not there, these classes are directly sending the request to the browser executable. And then these browser executable are further executing on the real browser. So there is a direct communication now, not with the browser, sending the request to the browser executable, and then browser executable is executing on the real browser. So the communication is more powerful over here. In JSON wire protocol, what happens is sometimes, if you have worked on previous version of Selenium, you may have noticed sometimes that things are working on Chrome, same thing is not working on Firefox. Or things are working fine on Firefox and Chrome, but it is not working fine on IE. So these were some of the challenges that were faced in previous version of Selenium. This is just because of this JSON wire protocol. So now this JSON wire protocol is removed, and the communication is direct with these browser APIs. So now directly you call Chrome driver class, it directly communicates with this Chrome driver exe, and Chrome driver exe executes the test on your browser. And both are fully W3C compliance. So there is no such scenario that the request can be missed in between, or if something is working on Chrome, it is not going to work on Firefox. So there will not be any such scenario. So this is more robust and more secured as well. So this is what the final architecture of Selenium 4, that how Selenium 4 is built and how Selenium 3 was built, and then Selenium 2 and Selenium 1. So this is the complete journey of Selenium. And right now we are sitting on a Selenium version, which is 4.2. So we should be using the latest one only. If some of you are still working on Selenium and using the 3.14159, I would really recommend you to move to Selenium 4. Because see, there is no change in the coding. There's very minimum change in the coding. In Selenium 3, how we used to write this code is the same way we have written in Selenium 4. There is no change in the coding part. Even if I remove this Selenium 4 library and add Selenium 2.53.1, there is no changes in the code. So code didn't change. Only the architecture changed. There are minor changes in the code. There are many new implementation that is done in Selenium 4, which is something called as CDP feature, that is the Chrome DevTool protocol. So a lot of new things that we'll be learning once we start with Selenium 4. Right, but this is a brief history, a brief architecture of the entire Selenium project, where it started and now where what is the current version in the market. Right? Will we still use WebDriver API for choosing browser at runtime? Yeah, I mean, WebDriver. Sorry, I didn't get your question clearly. WebDriver is what we'll be using for selecting browsers. So basically these classes, in case you want to work on Firefox, you just need to change this to Firefox driver equal to new Firefox driver. This is what you'll be doing. And now,
sorry, Rahul, like I tried this thing, but still it is showing me error when I'm like initializing this object for Firefox driver. Okay, and same it is showing error for me for Chrome driver as well.
Okay, so have you added this jar file?
Yes, I have added that.
You need to show me whether you have added the correct jar file or not.
Yeah, current itself 4.2.0.
4.2.0.
I have a Mac laptop.
Okay, you have a Mac laptop. Okay.
Yeah.
So what error you are getting? Are you getting a red line over here?
Yeah.
Have you checked your Java version?
Java version is 1.8 itself.
1.8 itself. Okay. So what we can do, like we can sit offline and I can do a fix on your machine. There could be a little configuration issue. So
okay.
if you open up your terminal on Mac and if you do Java -version, are you getting 1.8 only?
No, it is not showing the 1.8 because yesterday I asked you, right? You were going to share some bash file with me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
that could be a multiple Java version issue. So that's the reason it may not be working fine. But
Okay.
like
The error
we can
which
sync what we can
the
do, we can sync tomorrow. You can ping me on WhatsApp and I can take a remote of your machine. Just have TeamViewer downloaded, TeamViewer.
okay,
Right.
fine.
So this should be a quick fix. Within like 5 minutes, it should be fixed. So don't worry about it.
Okay, fine. Thank you for that.
All right. So now let us run this code and let's see if it is running on Firefox as well. So let's run it. See, we got exception. It didn't work. Now, why it didn't work? The answer is over here. We need to read this exception. It says that some illegal state exception, the path to the driver executable. It is looking for some driver executable, but we have already provided driver executable, but this is for Chrome driver. Now it is looking for something called as Gecko driver, which is for Firefox, right? So this Firefox is sending request to Gecko driver and it didn't find Gecko driver, so it failed. So what we need to do now, we need to go to this Gecko driver site, click on Gecko driver release, and this is the latest one. So download it from here. Let's see. This is for Linux, this is for Windows. So click on the Windows one. So it is downloaded. And once it is downloaded, just extract it. So we got the Gecko driver file. And let's paste it here. And let's run it and let's see. See, Firefox launched. Navigated to Google, typed hello Selenium. Right? So that is how this code is communicating with the browser. The code is not directly communicating. It is just sending the request to these browser APIs. And then these browser APIs are communicating with your browser. Right? So we're going to have another detailed discussion around this once we start with the WebDriver lectures. But as in the beginning, I told you that we will be doing some crucial configuration today. So that configuration is very, very important. And that configuration has nothing to do with the Java programming part. So even if you are new, don't worry about it. But you should be doing these configuration on your machine. At least whatever that we are doing today must be up and running on your machine. You should have Java 1.8 installed like we did yesterday. You need to download latest version of Eclipse. Like for this Eclipse to support 1.8, I told you which version you need to use, 2021-06. So this is the version that you need to download for Eclipse. And if you have not yet downloaded, you can refer yesterday's video and just try to download it once more. Right. So after Eclipse, you need to download this Selenium jar, which we have downloaded it from the main website of Selenium. Go to download and just get this latest jar file. That's it. So this jar contains a class called as Firefox driver or Chrome driver. Just create an object of it, call the method driver.get, run it, and you should be able to see the browser launching. If not launching, then you need to make sure you have downloaded the latest Chrome driver and Gecko driver as well. Right? Yesterday, if you remember, when I added this Chrome driver exe and I executed my code, it didn't work. It didn't work as in a browser launched and browser closed. But navigation didn't happen. This is because I was using the old version of Chrome driver exe. This Chrome driver exe has to be the same version which your browser version is. If your Chrome browser, if Chrome version is 101, the Chrome driver exe should be of the same version, that is 101. If you are using 98 version Chrome driver exe, then your test might not work. So this is one of the things you need to make sure. The other thing that you need to make sure that you should be using the latest Selenium jar. Now, you know that Selenium jars versions are very frequently updated. So this 4.2 was released, I guess, yesterday itself. Let us see which date it got released. So there's a main website called as MVN repository. This is a Maven repository. All your open source Java projects, they check in their jar files over here. So if you search for Selenium, now this is very important concept we are discussing right now. Just watch it carefully. See, Selenium Java 4.2. This was released, they've not given the date, but this was released in May 2022. So right now it's May 2022, recently released. This was, prior to this, it was 4.1.4. Prior to that, it was 4.1.3. See all the versions you can see over here. Starting from Selenium 2.0, which was launched in 2011, right? Sorry. But what they're adding, why they're increasing the numbers, they must be doing some bug fixes. This is like same software development life cycle. This happens in your organization as well. If you are working in some project, you must be seeing some version of that project. Let's say initially a project started, the version was 1.0. Then there are more features, bug fixes done in that project, and the release changes to 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, something like that. And all of a sudden, there was a change in technology. The version 1.0 changed to version 2.0. Same thing happens with every project. So then 2.0 release starts, 2.1, 2.3, then 2.531. Then again, a major change in the technology. Selenium 3 came into the market. And after that, Selenium 4 now came in the market. So in case you want to see what all changes are going in these releases, so they generally track all these changes over here. Go to download and click on this change log. You should be able to see what they have implemented in 4.2. They have added the support for latest Chrome version 85, 10, 100, 101, 102, right? Then there could be something technical related to the development part, which you might not be worried about. So because whatever they're adding in the code, whatever bug fixes they are doing, they are maintaining a log over here. So something may be relevant to us, something might not be relevant to us. But still, you should be able to read these logs to check what fixes they are doing, if they are launching any new version, if they are launching any new feature. So this is one page where they're maintaining their change logs since Selenium 2.0. You should be able to read it from here. So whenever we are working in a company, if a developer is checking any code, he generally adds some coding comments that what he has checked into the SVN repository or the GitHub repository. And then when he checks in, there is a version generated. 4.1, 4.2, 4.3. And once the final build is merged, then there is a new version. The final version of that project is separated. So the same thing happens with Selenium as well. This is also a development project, right? So you can keep a track of all these things from here. Okay. The other thing I was talking about, in Selenium project, we have added this latest jar file. We know that every time, after every few months, you will see a new version coming. So what you need to do, you need to remove this version. You need to add another version. Next time if 4.3 comes, you right click over here, you remove this particular jar file. Just a moment, it got hang. So you just need to right click on. It's getting hanged on right clicking. Yeah, build path and remove it. And then add the new jar file. Same thing with this Chrome driver exe, Gecko driver exe. Whenever there is a new browser version, see Chrome automatically updates itself. Right now, if you see 101 version, next few days you will see 102 version. So it may happen a Chrome browser is automatically updated. You are running your test and they're not working. So what you will do, you'll go to the Chrome driver website, you download the latest Chrome driver exe, and you need to add it over here. Remove the previous one. So at times this task is little hectic. See, right now, we are just using one single jar, but we have discussed that Selenium, if we talk about Selenium, Selenium is only 25% in an automation project. Rest, these are the things as well we need to use. We need to generate logs, we need to send emails, we need to generate reports. For all these things, there are different jars available because these are different Java projects. Same like Selenium is a Java project, these are also Java projects. In case you want to do reading and writing from Excel, because you test data in Excel sheet, so Selenium will not help you. What you need to do, you again need to go to this website, search for POI, Apache POI API, and see Java API to access Microsoft format file. So you can read Excel, Word, PowerPoint, programmatically you can read all those stuff. So you go over here, you can see different versions of POI project as well. This is also a Java project. Latest one is this. So what you will do, you go over here, click on the jar file. See, you got this jar file. Once you got this jar file, you're going to go to your project in Eclipse. You right click on your project, go to build path, add external archives, and you will be adding this POI jar file. Now you can do Excel reading, writing as well, because you'll be calling the classes from this jar file. Classes are already there. You're not developing it. Same way like you're using Selenium jar, you're using POI jar. And you'll be getting all the classes, methods, and you can do reading and writing from Excel. We'll be learning this thing in the Java part, right? Now, after this, I want to generate logs. Selenium will not help in that. POI will not help in that. What will help us is Log4j. This is another project, another Java project, but created by Apache itself. So you'll be going to this, you'll be clicking on this, and you'll be downloading this jar file. See, one single jar file for Log4j. And how you'll be adding it? Same way, right click, build path, add external library, and add this jar file. Now I just added 3-4 jar files right now. When we are working in actual project, you may be using hundreds of such jar files. And every jar file is a different Java project, and every project has got some versions. 1.2.17, 5.2, and these versions are also frequently updated because these are all open source projects. And you are integrating all these projects in one single project to form up a full-fledged automation project. Now, whenever these versions are updated, you need to download the latest one and remove the old one. Now you can assume how hectic this process could be, because very frequently these versions keep on changing. Very frequently your browser version is getting changed, so you have to update this Chrome driver exe as well. Now this is, let's say I'm talking about one person who is working on this project. In a team, we could have 50 testers working on a same project, automating different modules. And all these 50 testers are using same version of jar files. So what happens if Selenium version changes from 4.2 to 4.3? Everyone has to remove this jar file and add the latest jar file, right? Let us understand this scenario with our diagram, because this is very important to understand. And for the new people, don't worry about it. You'll be starting with core Java. You'll not be dealing with these components right now. So once you come back from the Java sessions, then we'll be doing the same configuration again. But in case you are able to understand it a little bit, just try to do the same configuration on your machine, right? Just by watching these videos, you should be able to configure that thing. So I was talking about a scenario, let's say in a team of couple of testers automating one website, different modules. Let's say this is tester A automating login window. This is tester B automating user registration page. This is tester C automating some other stuff. This is D, this is E, automating different modules of the website. So everyone is writing some code, right? Using Selenium, writing some code. At the end of the day, everyone has to check in the code that they have written. I believe everyone is familiar with the process, what is checking in and checking out. You might have seen in the development, right? Whatever code the developers they write, at the end of the day, they check in their code to a common repository, a centralized repository. That repository could be SVN or the popular one that many companies use these days is GitHub. Right? GitHub is a cloud base that can be accessed from any part of the world. But why this checking? Why they are checking? What is the importance of it? So that it may happen, let's say this A tester, maybe his laptop got crashed. So the code is not going to go away with that crash. He can again take a fresh checkout from GitHub and can get the code that he has written, right? Maybe this tester D, he's leaving the organization. He's not going to take away the code with him. The code is already there at the centralized repository. Or maybe let's say this tester E, he joins as a new tester in this organization, in this project. So what he can do, he can take a fresh checkout of this project, and whatever code that everyone has done, he's gonna get the code on his machine and he can start adding his own module, his own code to that particular project. Right? So that is how we generally do in development as well as in automation, because in automation as well, we are writing the code. So we generally maintain the code on a centralized repository. So whatever everyone has done at the end, they have to check in the code, but no one checks in the jar file, right? Code can be merged. Jar files cannot be merged. So let's say if in the tester A, he's using Selenium, let's say not just tester A, everyone is using Selenium jar version 4.2, POI jar version 5.2, JDBC for database 8.0, and log4j 1.2.17, and so on, right? These are the jars everyone is using in that case. Now what happens, all of a sudden there is a new version of Selenium came in the market, that is 4.3. Everyone is still using 4.2, but what I did as a tester A, I have downloaded the latest 4.3. And whenever a new version is there, there might be a new functionality that is added or a bug fixes that might be done. So there were some new classes that were introduced in Selenium 4.3. What I did, I have added those classes in my project. Rest team members are still using 4.2, but I have included 4.3 and I have added new functionality. At the end of the day, everyone will be checking the code that they have written to a centralized repository. Now, let's assume what will happen next day when they are going to take a fresh checkout of the code. What will happen? My build is working absolutely fine, but everyone will start facing issues. Why? Because everyone is still using 4.2 version, and there were some new classes that I have checked in. They were not able to get those classes because those classes were not there in 4.2 version. Those classes were introduced in 4.3 version. So now how they are going to fix the project? They'll go to the Selenium website, they'll download 4.3, they'll remove 4.2, everyone is going to remove 4.2, and everyone is going to use 4.3, and they're going to fix their project. But when we are working on a larger project, it's just not that Selenium is getting updated. Maybe this guy has updated POI to version 5.3. This guy has updated log4j to the version 2.0. This guy has added n number of other jar files like mail API, test.ng, let's say extend reports, and added many more jars, which other people have not added. So at the end of the day, when everyone is going to check in the code, the next day when they take a fresh check of out of the code, they'll gonna get new classes, new functionality in their project, but they'll also gonna see a lot of errors. Errors just because of the missing jar files, the missing latest version of the jar files. So how they are going to fix it? Although while checking in the code, every tester has to mention that what changes he did, what latest functionality he has added. So these are basic coding standards that everyone has to practice. So while checking in the code, they'll be mentioning in the comments that, okay, these are things that they have added. These are the new features, new classes that they have added. These are the jar files that you may need to download. So next day, everyone will keep on searching for different jar versions and they're going to download the jar and they're going to fix the project. And this process continues every day. So you can imagine, I mean, if they are going to waste a lot of time, lot of effort every day in fixing their project, which is really expensive, right? So this process should be automated. Not only this Chrome driver, this Gecko driver, the versions are changing every now and then. Chrome driver, right now it's 101, then it will be 102, 103. Every now and then, to fix my project so that it should work fine on these browsers, I have to update the Chrome driver exe. I have to download it from their website and then need to sync it and make my project work up and running. So all these processes should be automated. We should not do the same stuff daily basis in case we are working in big team. So how this thing can be fixed? For this, see, if I talk about Selenium, what is Selenium to our project? Our project is dependent on Selenium jar, right? If I don't add this jar file, I cannot launch a browser. Means my project is dependent on this jar. My project is dependent on POI jar for reading Excel. My project is dependent on Log4j for generating logs. So all these jars, my project is dependent on all these jars, and these jars are also called as dependencies. So we also call them as dependencies. Dependencies. And there is a tool that comes to manage that dependencies. Anyone know which tool is that? Dependency management tool, which is also called as a build tool. Exactly. So Maven. Maven is the one that will actually help us in automating the entire process. So how Maven is going to help us, and what is Maven, how we're going to install it? It's very simple to download and configure Maven. Simply need to do download Maven. Although Maven comes inbuilt inside your Eclipse as well. If you go over here, if you right click, say new project, you will see Maven. Maven is already sitting inside Eclipse. But still we need to download it separately and configure it globally on our machine. I'll tell you why that is required. So let us see first how we can automate this dependency part, because we need to fix this issue. Before we start coding, we need to fix this issue because this is very important to handle. So what we need to do is simply go to this particular download Apache Maven. Go over here. The configuration is very simple. Every one of you should be able to do it on your machine. Like we configured Java JDK 1.8 yesterday, same way you will be doing it from Maven. So you'll be downloading Maven from here. Just click on this. This is going to give you a zip file. You unzip it, you're going to get a folder like this. I've already downloaded it. You get a Apache Maven folder like this. Open this folder, you'll see these files. Nothing installable in it. No exe file. Maven you're gonna get as a batch file. If you go to bin, you'll see this is Maven. Now, whenever you need to execute, there are some commands in Maven as well. Whenever you need to execute some command of Maven, you need to go to this particular path in order to do that. But I want that from any location of my machine, I want to access Maven. So what I'll do, I'll configure this Maven in my environment variables, like I did for JDK yesterday. So what you need to do, just type edit over here. This is a shortcut. Click on edit the system environment variable. And these configurations are little different for Mac. So anyone who needs the Mac configuration, you can get in touch with me. I'll let you know how to do it in Mac as well. Or maybe in some session, I'll show you, I'll connect my Mac machine. I'll show you maybe in the next session how we can do it in Mac as well, for JDK as well as for Maven. So you can follow the same process on your machine. So click on environment variable. Yesterday, we created a new variable Java home. So now you need to create a new variable mvn_home and paste the path of your Apache Maven root folder and paste it here. Click on OK. You'll see Maven home created over here, a variable which is holding the path of your folder. But Maven is inside this bin. So what you need to do, go to the global path variable, click on new and type %mvn_home%. This will bring the path of this root folder, and \bin, this will bring the path of the folder where Maven is. Right? So you need to do it like this. %Maven home %\bin. That's it. That is the only thing. Click on OK and Maven is successfully configured. No big installation in Maven. Only this much you need to do. Now open up command prompt to make sure Maven is configured or not. From any location, you can access Maven. See, I'm not on this location. I'm on a root location. I can simply say mvn-version, and I should be able to access Maven command from anywhere. So let's see. Should not take that much time. A lot of things are there running on my machine, so that's the reason it could be little slow. Yeah, okay. So yeah, this is what you should be able to see. Your Java version. If you get this message, it means Maven is successfully configured. You go to any location. You go to let's say C drive and type mvn-version. You should be able to access Maven commands from any location on your machine. So we have configured Maven globally on our machine. If you don't add environment variable, you're not going to see these things. Right? So now once Maven is successfully configured, now let's see how we're going to use it. Let's go back to Eclipse. Let's close this project. Let's close this project and create a new project. Create a new Java project, but not a simple Java project. This time we'll be creating a Java project, but we'll be following some Maven configuration. Let's see how we're going to do it. Click on project. Go a little down, and this is Maven. Expand it. Click on Maven project. You are creating a Java project only, but you are following Maven structure now. So industry-wise, Maven is widely used. In almost every Java project, Maven, there's a wrapper over Maven as well, which is the next version to it, which is called as Gradle. So we are not going to talk about Gradle because Maven is 70%, 80% market is using Maven. So let's click on next and say new Maven project. Check this, create a simple project. Click on next. It is asking you for a group ID. The group ID is your domain. Like if we talk about Selenium, initial website was seleniumhq.org. So when they have created the Selenium project, in the reverse order, they have given the domain name over here, that is org.seleniumhq and .the Selenium project. This is how they have given the group ID. If my website is waytoautomation.com, and let's say I am designing Selenium, so I'll be giving it like this, com.w2a.selenium. So this is going to be my group ID. And artifact ID is your project name. Like this name is Kelsey project. This is Amex project. So I'm going to give this name as Selenium Testing. Any project name you can give. Once your project is compiled, you'll get a jar file version 00.1. You can change this version as well, but no need to do it right now. Rest of the things are not required. Simply click on finish. And you'll see another Java project created over here. The only difference you see, a small J written on MX project, a small M and J written over here. MJ means Maven Java project. Now, other difference I'll show you. When you expand this project, you will see, forget about test.ng for the time being. Let me remove it. You will see this SRC folder, and you will see JRE system library. This reference library we have later on added on our own. But initially, there was SRC folder and JRE system library. If you open this Selenium testing project, you'll see 1, 2, 3, 4 SRC folder. And then you see something called as main, test, Java, resource. What are these? You have JRE system library, that's fine. We have in we have it in simple Java project as well. But what are these things? So it's not like we have 4 SRC folder. There is only one SRC folder. See, if you go to the location of this Amex project on your laptop, so if you do Alt Enter, go to resources, you see this is the location where your project is, American Express. If you open this, this is Amex project. If you open this, you'll find only one SRC folder, right? Because this has got one SRC folder. And now if I go back over here, and if I open my Selenium testing project, see, this is the Selenium testing project, Selenium testing. If I open this, will I gonna see 4 SRC folder? No, we'll see only one SRC folder. Because in SRC, we have main as well as test. So one main and one test. In main, we have Java resources. In test, we have Java resources. So this is how things are organized in a larger project. What happens is, let's say when I'm creating a simple project, I added one class over here. Now in a big project, we have hundreds of classes. I can keep all the classes in one folder as well. It's like simply, if I'm storing something, I can directly store it on C drive. All the documents, all my official document, personal document, movies, songs, everything, I can keep it in C drive. But will that be manageable? Next time, if I'm searching something, I need to scroll down the entire C drive. So how it becomes manageable? We create multiple folders. Separate folder for movies, separate for personal, separate for official. And in that as well, we can create some more folders. 2022, 2021. And whenever I need to search for any particular file from a particular date, I can go to that particular folder only, not scroll the entire C drive. Same thing happens in a big project. Your code, your classes are divided into multiple folders, and folders are called as packages. Folders are actually called as packages. So over here, these are folders only, but in technical terms, we call them as packages. Anything that is related to development will go inside the main package, the main folder. In a team, if a developer is working and he's writing some automation cases as well, so development part, he is going to do inside the main package. And unit testing, automation testing, he will be doing inside the test package. So if we are using automation, we'll not be doing anything inside main method right now. We'll be writing our test cases only inside the test package. Now here as well, you see Java and resources. Anything related to the coding part, .java file will go inside the Java package. Anything which is not coding, Excel sheet, log file, text file, XML file will go inside resources. That is how things are arranged in a project. And in this folder, you can create one more folder. Just say right click new package and give it a name as test cases. And you can keep your test cases over here. And you can add multiple packages and manage your project. So if you see, I've added test cases. If you go over here, you'll see one test cases package is folder is actually added. So let me show you the location once again. If I open this, src test Java, see, test cases folder is added, right? So we are just organizing the things in different folders. That's it. So this is how it is actually worked in industry. If you're working in a big project, you'll be maintaining your code into multiple packages. Now here you'll be writing the same code like we did over here. We have written this code. Same code, I'll be writing it over here. So maybe I'm going to create a new class, name it as test browser. And I'll be writing the same code over here. Let us copy this code itself. Just copy this code and paste it over here. It should work fine, right? But I'm getting some errors. Now tell me why I'm getting this error. It is saying Firefox driver cannot be resolved to a type. My project is not able to understand what this Firefox driver is. Why? Different package? No. We don't have exe? No. Exe is not yet required for this Firefox driver class. Where this Firefox driver class is coming from? It is from
Selenium itself. Yeah.
Right? We have not added Selenium to our project. In the previous project, we have added Selenium. Where? In the reference library. In this project, how this project will come to know what is Firefox driver? We need to add Selenium, right? So how we have added it? Right click, build path, add external archives, and add Selenium. And now you will see Selenium is added in the reference library, errors are gone. But again, I added it manually. This is not an automated process. I should not be doing it like this way, right? Because next time the version changes to 4.3, I again have to go to build path, remove it, and then need to add it again. Then what is the use of Maven? So Maven, you can see there is a file called as pom.xml. This is the heart of your Maven project. If you open this file, you will see something like, this is what we have created initially while creating Maven project. See a tag, group ID, artifact ID. This is my project. Same information, you're going to get it for other projects as well. If you look for Selenium, go to the main centralized repository, Maven repository, search for Selenium. Selenium Java 4.2. And you can see this tag over here. This is a Maven tab. Copy this. And this project is dependent on this project. And this is called as dependency. See, a tag called as dependency. What we need to do, we need to add one tag over here. My project is dependent on these dependency. Which dependency? The Selenium dependency. Right? So what I'll do, prior to this version, there were the versions 4.1.4. If I do 4.1.4, I can simply change the version from here. Do Control S. And what you will see, nothing happening right now. Why? Because 4.1.4 is not there on my machine. So what it is doing, let's see. It is downloading something from Maven. See, from Maven it is getting downloaded. And in some time, you should be able to see all the jars are there in my machine. Automatically downloaded. See? And see the errors that I was facing is now gone. Maybe I want to use log4j as well. So what I'll do, I'll simply do a search for log4j. And this is the log4j. Copy this. I'll go over here in pom.xml file and I'll paste it. Save it. Let's see. As soon as I save it, whether Log4j is there or not. So it is still downloading some of the files. We need to wait for a couple of seconds. See, Log4j is there. Log4j jar file is added over here. If you want to use anything other, let's say you want to use Java Mail API. So for Java Mail, we have a jar file over here that is this one. Copy this, paste it over here. So one by one, you keep on adding these XML files, and then you'll see the Java Mail API is also added. Where is the Java Mail API? This is activation coming from Java Mail, and this is the Mail API. See. So how fast these dependencies are being downloaded? If I want to switch to any previous version of Selenium, let's say 3.141.59, Selenium 3, I'll simply hit save, and you'll see that, okay, Selenium 3 is, oh, sorry, the version is 141.59, not 49. So if you provide the correct version, you'll see Selenium 3 jars are here. But how fast these jars are added? When I use 4.1.4, it took some time, right? If I do 4.1.4, now it is added automatically. So what is happening? See, first time when you are using Maven, Maven is going to create a local repository on your machine. Local repository on your C drive, users, and if you go to your profile, you'll see this .m2 folder is created by Maven. If you open this, you'll see a repository created over here. If you open this, you see a lot of things are already here. If I talk about Selenium, Selenium is inside org, then Selenium HQ. Where is Selenium HQ? Selenium. This is Selenium HQ. This is Selenium. And this is Selenium Java. And see, all these versions are already there on my machine. If I switch in between any of these versions, Maven is not going to download from the centralized repository. Maven is going to look from my local repository first. And if the version is not there in my local repository, let's say this 4.2.0 is also there, right? So if I switch in between 4.2.0, it is going to pick, I guess, immediately, and we're going to change everything to 4.2.0. See, 4.2.0 is added. It is still downloading some jars. Maybe some 4.2.0 is not fully downloaded. So it is downloading these jars right now. So for the very first time, it is going to download it. And again, it is not going to download. Now, next time, what happens? Okay, can you please provide us pom.xml that we need? I'll be sharing the complete code with you. Whatever that we are going to write, you'll be getting the complete coding part as well. Don't worry about it. You'll be getting the recording as well as the complete code. Right. So next time, what happens? We were talking about this scenario. We have added multiple jar files in a form of Maven dependency now. Next time, when we check in the code, we are not going to check in the jar files, but we will be checking this pom.xml file. So next person who downloads, who take a fresh checkout of the code, we're going to get this pom.xml file. And automatically, all these dependencies will get downloaded on his machine. So he need not to go here and there and search for all different projects and sync over here. Whenever a new version changes, you just need to change the version over here, checking the code. Everyone will gonna get the same version. So that is how we have automated the process of dependency management. Now we can run our code successfully. If I run this again, will it gonna work? Let's see if it is going to launch Firefox or not. So this is console. Let us still building it. Should not take that much time. Let us wait for a few seconds. Till the time, tell me, will this code gonna work? Will it gonna launch Firefox? Say yes, it should not, right? Because we have not added any exe. We got exception. Part 2 driver executable must be set by WebDriver Gecko driver. Exe is missing. So now we should be downloading the exe and we'll be manually adding it like we did over here. But we need to automate this process as well, downloading Chrome exe, Gecko driver exe. And how this will be done, this is not provided by Selenium. There's a third party which created another Java project called as
Sir, we can't hear you.
Sorry guys, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So not sure. I mean, the modem got turned off somehow. Okay, let me share the screen again. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right. So I was talking about, let's say, now we need to automate this process of downloading the executable files as well. So this is not provided by Selenium. There's a different project called as WebDriver Manager. If you go to this particular Maven repository, you'll see this WebDriver Manager, automated driver management for Selenium WebDriver. So this is created by a third party, not by Selenium. So we need to just download this dependency, and this is going to do all the magic. So go to pom.xml and just paste this WebDriver Manager over here. And let's see what magic it is going to do. So let it download. So let's see, WebDriver Manager is added over here. Now what we need to do, we just need to write one line of code over here. That is WebDriver Manager dot Firefox driver dot setup. In case we are working on Firefox, that's it. This line is automatically going to download the browser executable file based on whatever browser version you have on your machine. If let's say you are using Chrome version is 98, it is going to get the 98 version of Chrome exe. If it is updated to 101, it will automatically download the Chrome driver 101 on your machine and will map it to your project. So let's see, let's run it. We have not added any exe. I'm just running this project. Let's see what happens, whether it is going to launch the Firefox browser or not. Or are we going to get any error? Let's see. Let's take a look at the console. Oh, okay. This is giving us some error. This error should not come. Let me run it again. Just give me a moment. Okay. Driver server process died. Let me try this for Chrome first. Chrome driver. Actually, my electricity went off and I am now connected to my mobile network. So that could be an issue as well, because this downloads the exe on the runtime. So let us see if this works for Chrome or not. See, Chrome browser launched without even downloading the executable file for Chrome. It launched a Chrome driver. So we have actually automated the process of getting the executable files as well. In case you want to use the same thing on Edge, simply do it like Edge driver and say Edge driver equal to new Edge driver. Whichever browser you want to use, just you need to change the object, use that class and change it over here. So if I run this again, we're going to see in some time, the Edge browser will launch.
This line will download the executable
Edge
file
driver
every time it gets updated.
Now, if it has already downloaded, see, it is also going to keep this Edge driver executable on a local repository on our machine. So if it is already there, it is not going to download every time. See, Edge browser is launched and all the execution is happening fine on Edge as well.
Okay, and in future, if suppose its version gets upgraded, then it will download automatically.
Then it is going to download the latest one.
Okay.
But you need not to go to the Chrome driver like Google, and then you need to download Chrome driver, then go to Microsoft and then need to download the Edge driver. You need not to do that manually. You have automated that process using this web driver. Right? So this is one of the best things. So now you can see we have automated the process of getting the jar files, which is called as dependencies. And we have automated the process of getting the executable files with the help of this WebDriver Manager library. And this is not provided by Selenium, right? So just Selenium is not used in the project. A lot of integrations will be doing. And this is one of the best things. Why best? Because see, if we talk about QTP is a tool, UFT is a tool, right? So tool is something like this. Tool has a boundary. This is a tool. And tool contains, let's say, hundreds of features. But when you want to automate a website, you will be using only those 100 features. You cannot use, I mean, if let's say when we are writing manual test cases, I said we do a lot of permutation combination. Again, it doesn't mean that for every permutation combination, you will get a feature in that tool. At times, the features are not there, and at times it is not there. So what we do, we generally go to HP, we ask for add-ons. They sell their add-ons to support that particular feature as well. But again, add-ons are also developed by developers. If that particular add-on is not there, then we cannot automate that feature. That is the reason we say that 100% automation is not possible. Because that automation tool is not supporting it. Because that is a tool. Tool has got a limitation. Every tool has got some limitations. They cannot support all the features. But if we talk about Selenium, Selenium is not a tool, right? We have just seen Selenium is not a tool, right? What exactly Selenium is? It's just collection of classes, collection of methods. Anything that is feasible in Java, you can achieve that thing with Selenium. Excel reading is not part of Selenium. Log generation is not part of Selenium. Test case creation is not part of Selenium. Sending emails is not part of Selenium. But these are the things which are required to complete a project, to complete an automation project. So you can achieve all these things. And you can integrate all these things with your Selenium project. Because Selenium has no boundaries. If it is an automation tool, then you cannot do that thing. You cannot integrate everything with that automation tool. So Selenium is just Java, just plain Java, plain core Java. So if you know Java, you can easily work on Selenium. And it's just like you need to know the basic concepts of Java. That's it. So we are going to do only this much configuration for today. We are not going to start with any coding part. Coding part will going to start from the next session. People who have joined new or joining as a very first session, you guys will be moving to the Java sessions like from the next week. And students who have already come, you will be continuing with the same batch, but I'll be sending the new meeting invites. And for the new people, we'll be creating a WhatsApp group. So I'll be sharing that WhatsApp group information next week, and you'll be receiving the meeting invites. So just a moment. Can we attend both? No, actually, both Java sessions and Selenium sessions are held at the same time. So 8 to 10 India time. So for the new people, Java classes are actually taken by a separate dedicated instructor who is going to take just your core Java sessions. So he's like one of the expert in core Java. He has already taken so many batches with us. So it's like you are getting a whole dedicated training on core Java before you move on to Selenium. And all the Selenium sessions, I myself will be taking all the framework designing, test ng, extent reports. So all these things I myself will be covering, all the live projects. Just that before you get started with Selenium, you first need to build up your base for core Java. And don't be afraid of coding, because 90% of the people today who are joining the sessions are completely from manual testing background, right? If they can learn coding, if they can automate, you can also automate. Even if you talk about my experience, I started 14 years back and I started as a manual tester. I was also very afraid of coding. But since the time I started using Selenium, I start loving the coding part. And it's not like coding is very complex. We are not developing anything. It is already developed classes, methods. We are just calling them. And we are adding just our own logic, basic if, else, loops. And when you're writing 3-4 lines of code and you're seeing that the website is launching, all the actions being performed, then it will actually going to build up your interest in the coding part. And that is what is going to help in building up the logic concepts as well. So don't be afraid of coding. It's just the basic concept that you must have studied in your graduation. Same thing you are going to use with Selenium. And slowly and surely, once, I mean, the 3.5 months course is completed, you yourself will gonna see that how much confident you are while writing the code or while automating the website. That I can assure you, if you practice thoroughly, you can automate any website in the world easily. Website automation is not at all a big deal. Using Selenium is not at all a big deal. The big deal will gonna come once you start working on framework, because that is where the actual coding part is going to be done. Selenium is very easy. In just 4 or 5 sessions of WebDriver, you'll be capable enough. You can automate any website. You can handle any complex elements for sure. Right? So that you're gonna see once you start with it. Okay, so let's talk about the questions now. So enough of training. So yeah, if you have any questions, then you can ask right now. Okay, I can see a lot of questions in the chat box. So if we are taking core Java, when we will take up Selenium training? See, the next 6 weekends will be dedicated to your core Java. At least 10 to 12 sessions of core Java will be there. And then you will be moving to the Selenium batch. Immediately the next week, Selenium batch is going to start. Right? Okay. How to enroll to the course? See, students who are new. So once again, I'll tell you, we have this lifetime membership package. It's not like you need to enroll for an individual course. You can simply go over here and enroll for this lifetime membership package and can attend all our ongoing and future live trainings for free. We are also running a batch of Selenium C#. Selenium Python batch ended today itself. So another batch is going to start in another 2 weeks. We're also going to start a new batch of API automation. So all these trainings you can attend, you can repeat them n number of times you want. So that is what a very unique concept you'll not see anywhere else in the industry. And addition to this, there's a whole big video library of 30 plus courses, which you're going to get additional access to. So along with the live training. You can even, in case you want to practice during the weekdays, you can follow these are the detailed courses like on DevOps, on APM Python, Selenium Python, even RPA. All these you're going to get lifetime access to. Any course we add in future will also be freely accessible for you, right? So the Selenium recordings are going to be added in this particular course. If you click over here, you just need to scroll very down. So click on any lecture, scroll to the end, and here you're gonna see this is the April Java batch. Java sessions are done. I'll be adding the day 1 and day 2 that we did yesterday and today. I'll be adding it over here. And previous batches, if in case you want to follow, you can follow it from here. So these were the January batch and then so on, November batch. So it's a whole big list. So we're taking classes more than like 2015 and you'll find it over here, right? So many batches, but don't go very far. Just follow the recent batches only, right? Can't we do parallel Java with recorded classes? Yes, in case you want to get started with Selenium, and if you are a little bit confident in the Java part, then you can practice Java during the weekdays from these recordings as well and start attending the Selenium session. In this way, you should be able to finish your Selenium classes within 1.5 weeks, 1.5 months, around 6-7 weeks. Regarding, I'll be uploading it very soon, Garima. Will we be provided with certification to? Yes, at the end of the course you'll be getting the certificate. Will we have practice or quiz? Yes, we're gonna see a lot of assignments, a lot of live website automation. Once you come to the Selenium part, I'm gonna give you so many assignments that you need to complete it during the weekdays. Need schedule for all the training, Garima? Okay, sure. Just drop me an email. I must have sent you initially, but in case you don't have, then just drop me an email. I'm gonna send it to you. Practice programs, yes, you will be getting it. How many months to complete core Java? Somewhere around 10-12 sessions, not more than that in core Java. Up till collections will be covered, right? Okay, any more questions? I know today topic was little heavy, especially for the new people. So guys, don't worry at all. Just try to go through these 2 recordings once again. Try to do this configuration on your machine. People who have already completed Java, this is, I mean, you have to do it on your machine, because from the next session onwards, we'll be taking over from here. So we'll be working only on Maven projects, and then we'll start with our automation, right? So I hope guys you have enjoyed the session, and at least you have got some learning from these 2 sessions as well. Okay, any feedback, anything that you want to discuss before we wind up? All right. Okay guys, then thank you so much for joining, and I'll be sending you all the details over the email along with the recordings, and like I'll be uploading the code as well over here. Yeah, so today's session was little related to the configuration. So yeah, you can let me know if I'm going little fast, so I can slow down and again repeat that. But yes, you guys have to be little interactive, not just on the chat. You can unmute yourself directly. Feel it like that we are taking a classroom session. You can ask n number of questions, right? Don't worry if it is a silly question as well, right? Okay, yeah, all the times you're gonna get the recording. Not over the email, you need to check it on the portal. I'll be uploading it over here. All right. So thanks a lot, guys. Thank you for joining in. We'll see you next weekend. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rahul. Thank you, sir. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you all.